That's not English, Brian. It's German.
So what I told you is true, from a certain point of view.
What is going on, world? Welcome back to A Certain Point of View. We are live. It is Monday evening. It is July 4th Eve, and we're here to talk everything Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. One more final Indy adventure is in the books. The three of us have seen it. We're spending the entire show discussing everything that was the Dial of Destiny. As you can see, no Jill tonight for two reasons. One, she didn't get a chance to see Indy. Two, she sung her heart out last night at a Fall Out Boy concert, and she is MIA with a voice. So
where are all the IG stories of the singing?
Yeah. But as you can see, she's in the chat. She'll be here hanging out. I don't think she really cares about spoilers, so she'll probably be there the whole show. But yeah, we're gonna be diving into everything spoiler-wise for Indy. Indy 5, the last final adventure for this character. Last time Harrison Ford will be playing this character. Guys, how we doing? It's Monday. We all kind of just hung out today. You know, July 4th is tomorrow. How's everyone's weekend? How's everybody doing?
Doing good. So far, so good. I did a extremely hard leg workout today, so I'm probably going to crash after this.
Good for you.
My workouts keep getting harder. It's stupid.
I mean, it's kind of the point, right?
I know.
So you don't plateau.
It's still stupid.
Yeah. No. I'm dying from this heat. I'm over it. And I'm not even in Sacramento. I can't even.
It's hot here too.
It is currently, it's not bad. It's currently 93 degrees outside.
Oh my God. It was 107 there I saw yesterday.
Yeah, but I wasn't here, so it doesn't matter.
I know. No.
It was like 113 in Arizona today.
Yeah, that's
it's bad.
That's how, so when we went to Palm Springs back in April, the 3 days we were there, it was 102, 107, 105. It was crazy. And it was like 100 degrees by like 9 a.m. It's just, I don't know how those people do it. I don't know
having dogs too, it sucks with Hilo because like we can walk him for maybe like 10 minutes and then we have to come back in and he's just restless all day from being inside. Even though he doesn't appreciate what we pay for the air conditioning that he gets to sit in all day. He's just like, I want to go out in the heat.
That's good. How these ones are.
Let him get out and bring your cute little familiar inside.
Oh, my toad. I haven't seen him since that day, whenever that was.
That's okay. It's not his season yet. He was just coming by to say hello.
He was
He's still alive.
I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be here.
And you fed him.
And he was getting bugs.
That's so cool. I've never seen a frog eat like without it just being like on TV or something.
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't expecting to see it either, but because we had our porch light on, all the bugs were like flying towards it, so he was just having a great time.
That's probably why he was there.
Yeah,
he realized.
No, he's there for me.
No, he's her familiar. I told my mom, and she was like, "I don't get it. What's a familiar?" And I'm like, "A spirit animal type thing." She's like, "So she picked a frog?" And I'm like, "No." So
just witchy stuff.
Just spooky season stuff. Which, how much stuff have you already bought?
I have not bought anything yet.
Jill's the one who bought stuff.
Just Jill?
I'm trying to wait because, first of all, I don't need to buy spooky stuff because I bought a lot last year. So
you did just buy the Hocus Pocus Lego set.
Oh, that's true. I didn't buy that. Alex bought that for me. So.
Oh, okay.
But that's for the channel. They're gonna do a live stream of. That's why. It's a write-off.
As soon as Brian,
as soon
as you texted me that it was on sale, I remembered, and I texted Alex from upstairs. I was like shaving my legs, and I was like, "Can you buy me the Lego set?" And he was like, "Yeah."
That's awesome.
We need to, for you, anytime we do something, have that clip from Schitt's Creek where he goes, "It's a write-off."
It's a write-off.
Oh God, who's gonna build it though?
Oh, I'll insist on building it,
Okay,
or at least most
good.
of it.
Okay, good. I didn't realize it's apparent. I watched like a tutorial thing that they were doing on it. It's pretty like interactive, like buttons, twisty things,
Yeah, it
moving.
looks like complicated on the inside, which I appreciate. But that'll be like the most complicated Lego set I would have built
Ever. Even has cute little the black candle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
And it's got book.
It's got book. I saw it. There's like a twisty on I think on the side, and the pink or purple flames shoot out the fireplace. That's gonna be a good one. That's gonna be one of those ones that just like looks good, where you just like put it somewhere and it just looks like it just blends in with everything else.
That one might be staying up all year round on one of our shelves.
Push one of Alex's fighters from his back.
Too many ships.
Right here.
We need a house.
Yeah. Hang it from the ceiling. We've been saying this forever.
God, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Brian, how was your weekend? How you doing?
I didn't do anything but just stay in the air conditioning. Like,
how'd you feel Saturday morning?
Oh, I was totally fine.
Okay.
Malibu?
I had a little bit of a headache.
We like Malibu. Yeah, no, I was fine. I rewatched Happy Hour. It was actually pretty funny. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Jake, you would have been proud of me. I kept Brian from taking his shirt off.
I mean, you weren't also disencouraging it.
I was like, we're gonna get kicked off YouTube.
No, we were gonna get kicked off YouTube for me showing that Amazon shirt. That was what we would get kicked off.
It already got it got flagged. The monetization got flagged for the video.
For what?
Partial or like full?
Partial.
Like,
it's limited.
Limited. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever showed or something during the episode, the episode got flagged.
I bet it was my cup.
Yeah, something. I don't know what it was. It didn't tell me. I could probably look at it, but yeah, the video got flagged.
What? The only things we shared was.
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see.
Your cup, the image of the shirt on Amazon.
It more than likely is probably that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that.
You can't show stuff from.
It depends on the thing.
Yeah, because like we didn't play any songs or anything, right?
Your game.
Yeah, it's not telling me.
Maybe it was just like us. You're not supposed to like.
So it says
shots of alcohol for money.
I think that's what it may be. It says this video may earn limited or no ad revenue due to content identified as not suitable for most advertisers.
Oops. I mean, that's just Happy Hour in general.
So
wow, YouTube going after a stream for the gays.
Oh my God, I didn't even recognize last month's is limited too. Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, YouTube officially is,
and the Newlywed episode is limited too.
Well, you know what that means, guys. We are really gonna need more super chats, more patrons to help make up for not being able to monetize our dirty videos.
Facts. And memberships here on YouTube will pick that up.
Yeah,
memberships on YouTube will pick that up. That's
very
true.
You should send a appeal being like, this was for charity. How dare
all I can do is request a review. It won't let me write anything, so I just requested a review.
Yeah.
So
we'll
see what happens.
Thank you everyone, because we rate $650.
Yeah, that was insane. I was not expecting to get that. A lot of that was Ferris, so thank you, Ferris.
Jane, Curtis, Sean. Trying to think how many I can remember.
Yeah, we got a lot of very generous donations.
Yeah, there was a good amount. It was very nice. Even people has never said anything in the chats before.
We also got 2 new memberships out of the show and a new patron, which is awesome. So
a
couple new people have joined the View crew on different sides of the platform, which is very exciting. Yeah, everything I saw from Happy Hour was awesome. Thank you to everyone who donated, was a part of it. I popped in for a little bit at the end, but at that point, I think the show was just long gone. Wasn't there for too long. So, but it seemed like a very good time, and that's awesome. So I'm happy to see the donations that came in.
Getting drunk for a good cause.
Yeah.
Who else? Chase. Chase was good money. It was a fun time. Fun time.
We were just being charitable.
100%, right? I mean,
chill.
Oh, her
Yeah,
Saturday was
cool.
not fun. Her Saturday was not fun, I'm sure.
Jill learned not to mix liquor and wine. Very important lesson.
Yeah.
And go pre-game before happy hour. Like, she learned a lot of lessons, that one.
All right, well, let's stop putting off the inevitable here. Let's get into our main topic, only topic of the night. Let's talk everything Indy. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If you guys want to comment along with your thoughts, opinions on things that we may be talking about at that time, or give your opinion on the film overall, hit that super chat, hit that Streamlabs. We will make sure we highlight and discuss those questions and comments that come through. But we're just going to kind of start this off with some reactions, initial thoughts, how we felt about the movie, and how we feel about it now that it's been 4 days after we've all seen it. We've had plenty of time to talk about it, sit with it, think about it. So I'm sure this is going to lead to a very good conversation that's diving into a lot. So Brian, I'm gonna go back to you to start us off here, man. Just initial kind of elevator thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I almost said The Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
It's funny that the Ark was the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just saw a TikTok today that I guess the guy's dad was a set designer, and he was the guy that made the prototype for the Ark, and he still had it. And the thing, he got it appraised, and it's worth $250,000.
Not surprised.
And it's just the prototype. Like, you could still see like the glue and all that stuff. Anyways, I enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. I loved it. I think though I'm more in a different perspective, as I don't take it as seriously as most people. Like, a lot of people take Indiana Jones like it's their Star Wars or whatever. I just have always just looked at it more as a fun action movie, like a fun action movie, action adventure, I'd say. And just with Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, and it's a fun ride at Disneyland. So like I never took it that seriously. The only problems I've ever had with it was just how wonky Crystal Skull looked. I didn't have a problem. I thought the story idea was great. I just thought it looked really stupid, like when he's swinging from the vines. So I take it in a much different approach than I think a lot of people. So I walked out of it absolutely loving it, thinking it was hilarious and fun, and all the characters. There was only one thing I didn't like about the whole thing. Do you want me to say it now?
No, you don't have to. Very interested in what that one thing may be. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I'm probably the biggest Indy fan out of the three of us here. And I've talked about it a lot over the past couple of days with people who have seen it and people asking me if they should go see it. And I kind of just obviously non-spoilerly break down my thoughts of why you should go see this movie.
How many people have asked you? I've had so many people ask, probably more than I've been asked for any other movie.
So I posted a photo of us at IMAX. I posted they had a giant thing in the center of the room, which was really cool. And when we walked out of the theater Thursday night, I had 5 replies asking if they should go see it.
I've never, even Marvel movies and stuff, like I've never gotten so many like, how was it? Just from like my Instagram story of us just being there. And so I thought that was interesting. So I was curious how yours was.
A lot of hype behind this because the last one we got wasn't since 2008,
Mhm.
and because the franchise is so much smaller, and because like the movie was supposed to come out earlier and got delayed, like I think there was just like a lot of people
Yeah.
patiently waiting for it to come out. And then when it was at Cannes, there was like a bunch of mixed reviews about it, and people were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, that's a bummer." And then it came out for the rest of us, and the reviews were like getting more and more positive. So I feel like a lot of people were just kind of like, "All right, I don't know where most people stand on this movie. I'm gonna have to ask people that I trust about
Yeah.
what they
Yeah,
thought."
absolutely. And I think I will say about the whole Cannes thing, because I've heard it brought up a couple times. I don't think this movie should have premiered at Cannes at all. I think it was a mistake to put it there. It just doesn't feel like a Cannes type of film. And I know that Top Gun did it last year, but Top Gun and Indy are extremely different. Extremely different movies, not just in like how well made they are, but just the style of film. They're so vastly different from each other. It just doesn't and I think that did hurt it a little bit. Those reviews came out, people were kind of saying like, "Oh, it's okay, it's not as good as it should be." And that may have hurt it a little bit. Either way, like I think once the word of mouth gets going on how good it actually is, it will pick up. I'm not going to say it's going to make an enormous amount of money. It won't, but I think it'll make a good enough amount of money to be a success. I do. And I know that the box office is a huge topic right now because the numbers came out and everything. At the end of the day, I think that the Indiana Jones movie is going to make enough money to be a success. I have no doubt. It's not going to be The Flash. It's not going to be a movie that just stalls at the box office. It's going to have legs. I know there's a lot of movies coming its way that could hurt it, but it's going to be a little counter programming with a lot of those movies if people haven't seen it. Especially with the older crowd. Like, I bet you the older crowd isn't going to see it opening weekend because there's so many people there. Over the weeks, like those people are going to filter into the theater to go see this movie because of Harrison Ford, an older generation. So
It'll be the like weekday early morning
mhm.
crowd.
Yeah. Look, every time I talk about this movie, I love it more. I really do. Like I have found I've talked about it at least once a day over the last 4 days. On Friday night, I was with a buddy, and he had seen it that day, and we sat for an hour just talking about it, for just everything about it. And I walked out of that realizing how much I really did like it. And so, and I'll just flat out say right now, it's my third favorite indie movie. I have it above both Temple and Crystal Skull.
Yours.
I just think that it's such an adventure, so much fun. It brings back so many cool elements of the previous indie movies, but then takes it in a lot of new direction because he is a 70-year-old Indiana Jones. You have to do different things. Like I think that was a large mistake with what Crystal Skull did, is they tried to put a 55, 60-year-old Harrison Ford in a 35-year-old Indiana Jones adventure. That's not possible. You kind of have to change the way that he does things to be able to fit the age that he is. And I thought that this movie did it very, very well. There's some things I didn't like, but like the main things that you look for in Indiana Jones movie are Indy, the MacGuffin, the globetrotting adventure, and the supporting characters. To me, it hit home runs in all aspects of that. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to go see it again. I really can't.
It's almost as if in 2008, no one was ready to see Harrison Ford
Yeah.
actually be his age in a movie, and
Mhm.
like play a character that is getting older and can't do all the same stuff.
Yep.
We just weren't ready for that in 08. Mm-mm.
And it's hard to see too. Like
Yeah.
knowing your idols are getting older, especially
Yeah.
someone like Harrison Ford who's in some of the biggest franchises of all time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Indy, Star Wars, and just those two alone. And he's even dipped toes in it. I mean, now he's dipping toes in Marvel. It's like it's just
He's the king. He's the king.
yeah. Also, as far as the Cannes Film Festival, like I thought that was like a bougie one. Like I was kind of surprised it even went there in the first place.
I wonder if they did it for Spielberg. They were like, it's the last
Maybe.
indie movie. Let's
Maybe.
just do it. And then, or it was like, we can still be cool. Can be cool. Let's play an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah. I wonder if Lucasfilm saw what Maverick did last year and they're like, oh, let's do that. Because it's very similar. Like Indy came out a month after Maverick, granted, but and Maverick obviously had more buzz, but they might have looked at that and be like, ooh, that movie made a butt ton of money. They put it at Cannes. Let's see what it can do. And I applaud the effort, but it just doesn't feel like a Cannes type of movie. Anyway, Molly, before we get into specifics, what was your kind of reaction? Because you saw it, obviously, because of the time change. You saw it before us, and then you messaged your thoughts in there, and they seem pretty positive. Have they changed since then?
They haven't really changed. I liked it. I think I liked it more than Alex liked it. He's just going to be harder to please when it comes to a lot of stuff like this, but his opinion, like yours, Jake, has gotten better about the movie over time after digesting it and like talking to other people about it. For me, first of all, we went Thursday afternoon at 3:00. Perfect time.
That's so cool.
Perfect time to go see a movie.
So cool.
The theater was like about half full, and everyone there looked like they were Indy fans. A couple of people had hats and like had the outfit and everything, and so that experience was good. The only problem was that like halfway through the movie, we realized the theater was getting kind of warm, and I wonder if their AC broke at some point.
No way.
Really? That bad?
By the time we got out of there, we were like, are you sweating? I'm sweating.
It was just that good. Come on.
It was just that good. It must be that.
Wow, I've never experienced something like that. And now with theaters having those leather seats too, that must have gotten real hot.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't get too uncomfortable until like we all stood up and we were like, kind of sticky. But the movie was good enough to where we didn't really notice it too much. But yeah, I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was really fun. I think it's also my third favorite of all the Indy movies. And yeah, I think I asked Alex if he wanted to come on, and he's got other work stuff that he was working on, and he was also like, I've talked about that enough.
Yeah.
over
No,
the
it's fair.
weekend.
Oh, excuse
fair.
us.
Yeah. No, I watched the video on, I believe it was Saturday or Friday, maybe Friday. I think I messaged you guys. I agreed with basically everything that he said. Like almost every single point that he had, I was in line with. But I do feel like I might have liked it just a little bit more because I don't think I'm as just kind of like stingy when it comes to it.
Yeah.
Like he might be. So
he kept saying, you don't want to go into a movie like this thinking it's going to make you feel like how you felt when you were 12 and you saw whatever Indy movie. Like, but I kept telling him, like, there's some part of your brain that is always going to want
100%,
that
100%,
no matter how much you temper your expectations. And also, like we've been talking about, it's just like a fun action adventure movie. I asked him on a walk a couple days ago, I was like, if this was an Uncharted movie, would you like it more? And he was like, yeah, if that was an Uncharted movie,
interesting.
I would have loved it, been over the moon with it. But because it's an Indie movie,
that's
it's
fair.
like,
I totally get it. I totally get it. I totally understand it. But that's a very interesting question. I like that.
It's just got that Indie name to it, and so
it's hard. It's hard to. I mean, the first three movies are so special. Like to have three straight up bangers back to back to back like that, and they were spread out over time. They weren't like within 5 or 6 years. They were within like a 10-year period. Like it's difficult to do stuff like that. And I totally understand like trying to turn that off in your brain, but it's hard. Like you see that character on screen, you know what that character can be and what type of stories it can be. It is hard to kind of let that go. But I'm glad to hear a lot of positive word of mouth from it because I was scared for a little while. Like I was a little scared going into it that people were going to be absolutely crapping on it. And I will say when we were walking out, Brian, I don't know if you heard this or not, that people immediately behind us were walking out and they were saying, man, that was a waste of money. That sucked. So I'm a little nervous that a lot of people feel that way. I know that the audience score is pretty decent, but I feel like the people that maybe didn't grow up watching Indy like some of us did, are going to have that type of reaction.
So that's exactly what Michaela just said. And that's, I think, kind of what I am, where she said, I didn't see any.
But at least she liked it. At least she liked it.
Yeah, I didn't see any Indy until I was an adult, so I didn't have the emotional childhood attachment. I thought this one was really good. That is exactly, I think, where my thoughts lie, because I didn't see any Indy movie. Well, I saw Temple of Doom when I was younger, but not enough to remember it. But I don't think I watched them till we lived together, Jake. So like what, 2017, 18?
I have them on VHS, and I bet you the VHS tapes don't even work anymore.
Yeah. So for me, like, I think that is a little bit of kind of like what I meant by saying, I just look at them as fun, like adventure movies with Harrison Ford being.
Now that is
That's
a character
Jason
I want to
Bourne.
see. I want to see Harrison Bourne. That is awesome.
Just Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford. So, and then, I mean, my exposure to it up until, I don't know, 2017, 18 was the ride at Disneyland. So, like, I mean, like, that was
which is a great ride.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like the best one, I think.
I still think it's the best ride that they've ever
I agree. So
I love being in line for it and hearing Salah's speech over and over and over.
It just needs to stop breaking. That's all. Like it just breaks all the time. Like they need to figure it out. That's all.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. So I'll go into my one negative.
Oh, real quick, Brian, hold on. I want to read super chats before we get to those.
Okay.
I want to make sure I get to these. So we did get two from Tim.
More of a joke, by the way.
I'm going to read the first one. Tim said, having just watched the film earlier today, I can understand how it got a less than stellar reception in the Cannes compared to Top Gun Maverick, but it's still a very good film I enjoyed watching. Yeah, like I said earlier, I just don't think it's a type of movie that goes to Cannes. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, Tim, because sometimes you could be super negative. So I like that.
Well, he sent more super chats in, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got one more. Hopefully it's good. Also, I thought this film was on par with Tim, you lost me. I thought this film was on par with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, not better, and I enjoyed that film as well. But for those who don't like Crystal Skull, probably not with Dial of Destiny.
I thought this was a mile above Dial.
I thought this was way better. And I will say, I did a rewatch of the whole franchise earlier in the week. Crystal Skull isn't as bad as it gets a rap for. It's the last 30 minutes that completely throw the movie off. That's it.
That's fair.
Like the rest of the movie's decent. Like when they go grave robbing and when they're in the jungle, but the second they go the tree vines and the alien stuff, that's where it kind of just goes thrown for the loop. The waterfall, everything leading up to that, I thought was very, very well done. But yeah, I think it's better than Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
It is interesting to see people compare it to Crystal Skull because since all the buzz for Indy has been happening online, I've figured out that like way more people that I know love Crystal Skull, and we just did a show on Bombadcast a week or two ago, and they all love Crystal Skull. So like it's interesting seeing people compare this to Crystal Skull because they're such different movies.
100%.
But I still have to put Crystal Skull at the bottom of my list just because it's just like not my favorite. But
yeah,
we're not.
I don't hate
about that.
Yeah, I don't hate that it dealt with aliens. It just didn't deal with aliens in the right way. That's all.
Interdimensional beings.
Okay, it's interdimensional beings. My fault. Okay, Brian, go ahead because I do want to get into some specifics. So you start, and then we'll dive into some other stuff.
It's more of a joke, but also not entirely a joke. I really think that they could have easily incorporated Short Round back into this.
No,
and I'm not just saying, not the whole entire time. He could have. Now, granted, I wouldn't have wanted him to die, but he could have easily been the Antonio Banderas part.
It would have felt too forced, way too forced.
Yeah, he could have been, but I wouldn't say he could have easily been inserted into the story.
Him just be like, I've got a friend that could help us, and then you just hear, "Hey, Indy!" Like I would have lost my shit.
Oh, we all would have lost it, but it would have felt so forced. I said this at the end of the movie. In my head canon of Indiana Jones, Short Round is the club owner of Obi-Wan. That's what he's doing in his life. That's where his life has ended. He's he's doing that. He's living. He's making it large with money, and he's doing his thing there. So
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't go with too many cameos from previous Indy movies, because people
there
were
was
like,
only
is so and so going to be it? Is so and so? And I was like, Sala and Marion.
yeah.
That's all we needed. Or
That's fair.
the two big
They
ones.
were the two that, I mean, outside of Short Round, obviously, but Short Round was only in one movie. They were Marion and Sala were the only ones left that had been in multiple Indy movies.
And
Well,
I will
feel
say,
like Marion had to. Marion
Yeah.
absolutely had
She 100% had to.
Yeah.
especially with the Crystal Skull ending and them getting married, they couldn't just have
Mhm.
her have died off screen, which they did with Mutt, which is a kind of a hot button topic for a lot of people. I didn't really see any way around that other than saying he died already.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have worked, but you could have said like he was off running a mechanic shop somewhere across the country or something, or doing something that his father did please or whatever. But I will say, like, I was definitely a little shocked that it happened the way it did, because it happened so quickly. Like it kind of just like dropped from the I think it was the news anchor that dropped it when they were framing him for murder. He was looking at the TV. They briefly talked about it, and then it wasn't brought up back again until they were on the ship. It made the most sense for the story, especially the Indy that we had in front of us. The broken, old, kind of isolated Indiana Jones who was on the verge of retiring, living his life. He was divorcing. He and Marion were separating. It sucks, but it fits because obviously the war, like the Vietnam War, was right there. It was placed at a time where you can easily do that. And we all knew going in that there was no way Shia was ever coming back to the property. So it was definitely the easiest way to do it. And it worked. Like it not that it was like the easy route to go, but it worked for the story.
And it was like extra sad too when Indy was talking about it on the boat, because he said that he enlisted to piss him off.
Yeah.
So that they weren't on good terms.
Yep.
And so that just made it so much more sad. And I'll never forgive Alex for bringing this up, but he kept saying how similar Indy and Han's story was, because Han and Leia separated after their son Ben Solo. They lost their son, and so they separated, and then they get back together. And I was like, it's too similar.
Yeah. I'm okay with it though. Doesn't bother me. But yes, I blame Alex for bringing that into the universe. That's all. Okay, so we talked about Mutt a little bit. Well, Brian, did you have any thoughts on that before we moved on?
Oh, I thought it was a genius move. Okay. Like, especially the so I will say I didn't even catch it. I was sitting next to Jake. Yeah, I was sitting next to Jake in the movie theater, and you had a reaction. I was like, what did he just say? And he was like, Mutt's dead. And I'm like, what?
I didn't say it like that, but yes.
Or whatever you said. And I was just, I didn't, but like what I'm saying is.
The news anchor said they were talking about Indy for murder, and the news anchor said he had just, he previously lost his son, and he is currently in divorce talks or separating his wife or something along those lines, but it was super faint. And I think Brian heard me sigh. I was like,
I didn't hear the news person say anything about that. And I do remember the paperwork on his desk at the beginning. Like they were in the midst of filing for separation, not divorce. And I'm assuming those never got filed.
Yeah.
Well, I hope not at the end anyway.
Yeah. Well, but so I didn't even catch it. I mean, it's a cough and you miss it, like type thing. But no, I thought it was great. I think it was like even more a little bit genius, kind of incorporating like the fact that they said like he did it just to piss him off. Like it wasn't just like he enlisted in the war because that's what everyone was doing. Like it was just kind of like it made it that much more like
Well, and it was also a great, not that it was like a great, it was obviously sad, but it was a good moment between him and Helena, because it was one of the moments that pushed her a little bit more towards his side. Because at that point, they had been butting heads the entire time. She was a thief, right? She's doing this thing for the wrong reasons, just for the money. And then she hears him say that everything that he's done through his entire life, the arc, the cross, like all of these things, the one thing he would go back for is his son. And it was just one thing that helped her tip in his favor that eventually led to everything, that followed. So it was a great plot device for the two characters and their story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we go too much further past it, do you think he's still wanted for murder?
He has to be, right?
Probably.
He's got to be.
How does that resolve? It did not bother me at all that they didn't resolve that, but I was like, huh.
Yeah,
because
we didn't meet any characters that would be alive. Because the CIA agent, she was dead. She got killed.
Yeah.
I was going to say, unless they said something along the lines of something from the plane, like the CIA agents being dead.
No, I mean,
I'm sure they figured
or the president knowing that got stood up.
Yeah, there had to have been. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a reason. It just wasn't explained. But it is an interesting point that like he shows up in New York, and you're thinking, well, he's wanted for murder. Maybe they don't know he's back yet. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I assume he was like in a coma or something.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
We don't know how much time had actually passed. So, okay, let's get into specifics. And I want to start with the dial. The plot device that the entire film is obviously revolving around. Indy movies are very, synonymous for this, having this one thing that everything is kind of focused on. We had the arc,
the MacGuffin.
We have the stones. We have the cup, the skull for Crystal Skull, and now we have the Dial of Destiny. And there's been a long conversation for the last 2 years about Indiana Jones dealing with time travel. And for 80% of the movie, 90% of the movie, we weren't actually sure if that was ever going to happen until it happens. When we eventually reach the dial, we get to the tomb of Archimedes, and we see Voller use the dial, and they don't go back to, Germany and Hitler, where also interesting point real quick. I thought it was super cool that he wanted to kill Hitler rather than just make the Germans win. I thought that was super cool.
Usurp him.
That's what makes him such a good villain.
Yeah.
Not only did he want to go back in time to help the Nazis, he thought that he could do it better.
Yeah, it's awesome. That was such a cool point. Like when he said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's a twist on an original story of going back to save the Nazis or make them win. Yeah. But yeah, look, we see Indy fly through a sky timeline, and they're 2,000. A fissure in time. They're 2,000 years in the past, and they meet Archimedes, the creator of the Dial of Destiny, for a whopping 7 minutes of screen time, if that. Let's talk about this device. The fact that they pulled it off. They went to time travel. They did it. They went 2,000 years back in the past. What are our thoughts on this?
I loved it. I thought it was really well done. And like you said, it was a short in the context of the whole movie, which overall I thought was a little too long, but the time travel stuff was nice and tight. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was great. Like it didn't drag on too long. They didn't interact with too many elements of what was going on in that big battle and stuff. And I super appreciated the little dragon puppet nod where we see like a puppet show earlier in the movie and there's dragons like attacking and then they're like, dragons.
Yeah, when Teddy was being bullied by that kid, when he went and bumped at that kid in the street.
I thought that was like the perfect little callback. Yeah,
it was cool. I liked it. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I thought it was great considering how much people were freaking out when this movie was like, yeah, you included, were freaking out when the rumors started that there would be some form of time.
Well, it wasn't rumors. It was set photos of Indy standing next to Roman soldiers.
Okay, yeah.
That like
it flurried the internet, and everybody's timeline was just. I mean, obviously you guys didn't see it, but like it was hard to not see. It was Indy or maybe it was Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It was one of them standing next to Roman soldiers. So people were like, okay, what's happening here? What are we doing?
Trust the process, man. I think Mangle did a
100%.
great job.
100%. I don't know if I said this afterwards, Brian. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why it worked is because it was only for the 6 minutes at the very end of the movie. If this happened at the beginning, if it happened in the middle, if it happened
If
for
the whole movie
15
was back in
minutes,
time, it would have been annoying.
yeah, like if it happened for 15 or 20 minutes, but the fact that it happened so quickly, and they also had the emotional attachment to like fake us out the fact that Indy might stay there, that he might never come back.
Molly, I cannot tell you how upset he was getting.
Oh,
He was getting so mad and sad and angry that, like, I was like, because I even said out loud, if they kill off Han Solo and then Indiana Jones, like, that is just too much, and then they fake you
so
out.
I appreciate more. I appreciate Helena more because she socked the living crap out of him to get him back to the present timeline. Just to make sure he didn't stay there, because he would have screwed everything up. Now that starts the conversation of what kind of timeline does Indiana Jones live in as far as branches, and what did he change, and did things happen? And anyway, it didn't happen.
In my naivete, I thought that he was going to be the dead body in the thing with the watch.
The tomb
with the watch, because I was like, oh, earlier he wanted his watch back because that was his dad's. And then all of a sudden, like, now there's a body in the tomb with the watch. And I went, oh my God, he stayed and he died. And they buried him in the tomb. And that's not actually Archimedes, it's Indiana Jones. And my head spiraled, and it's like, no, that's him. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the other guy. I forget his name. Mads Mikkelsen's character.
I thought it was Archimedes.
No, it was Archimedes.
Because Archimedes took the watch. Oh, yeah, it's his watch. Yeah, it's Voeller's watch.
Yeah,
it's Voeller's watch.
Like, they do a close-up on Voeller's watch while they're on the plane, and I was like, ooh, that's the watch.
Yeah. I thought it was super cool. I also am kind of obsessed when movies play with history, because I spent an hour when I got home that night. I spent an hour just deep diving Archimedes.
The Battle of Syracuse?
Just everything. Like, I went into so many rabbit holes, and I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but that's where Archimedes really died, that battle. He died there.
Yeah. A lot of it was true history.
Yeah. So Indy changed history by going back in time, because then the dial was eventually built, so Archimedes lived, which was really cool. And so the dial worked, because I thought it was super cool, the idea that the dial was only built to go to that one point in time. Like, when we learned that, I thought that was incredibly unique to a lot of other, time travel devices we've seen through the years, where you can go wherever you want to, by the click of a button or whatever. No matter how you turned it, what time period you did it in, you were always meant to go back to that exact date to help them win that war, which I thought was super, super cool, to a lot of other time travel stuff, because we could have easily seen Voller go back to Germany and seen that all play out, but we decided to go back there and place that in there. I thought it was a really cool point in the story.
And I liked the touch of continental drift not being a thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Back then.
Leave it to Indy to figure that out.
Yeah. It's a very teacher comment. Be like,
100%.
You didn't take into consideration continental drift.
Yeah. I love that, though, when he's talking about that and Voller's like mind is spinning.
Yeah.
And Boyd
he knows
character,
he messed up.
And Boyd Holbrook's character's like, what are we doing? And he's like, his anxiety is like shooting through the roof, like, oh my God, did I screw up? And then he finally says, turn it around. And it's just too late, and they're going through it all. And yeah, it's cool.
So the Helena knocking Indy out at the end, and like that whole buildup of like, is he gonna stay? Is he not gonna stay? I was kind of getting tired of it, because I was like, he can't stay here.
No, he can't.
He should know better. But then again, he's been knocked out a bunch. He's been shot. Like, he's just tired and wants to die. But I also was kind of sad that like he wanted that so badly, and he was explaining it like, I want to be so badly a part of history. It's been my life's work, blah blah blah. And we see in the very beginning of this movie, he is part of history. He's in New York when the astronauts are coming back from Apollo 11. He's part of history. He's experiencing it. He just doesn't realize it, and he doesn't like appreciate the history that he is experiencing. He wants to go back and like, you know, experience the stuff that he studied. And then Helena being the one to make that decision for him bothered me because he should have taken responsibility in that moment and been like, you know what, I know what I have to do, because that's what all Indy movies are about. He has to have that moment where he realizes like, I have to do the right thing here. And in this one, he just gets knocked out and he has no choice in it.
So I kind of took it as a lot of the decisions and stuff he made in this movie was not because he was thinking correctly. It was because he was wallowing in his grief and sadness. For that part, I kind of just the whole time was thinking like he's only doing this because it's like he gets to escape, like escape reality, escape what happened to his son, escape what's happening to his wife. And it wasn't just him logically thinking, and then she punches him in the face, and then like when he wakes up and she's just like, look, this is all you had to do, kind of like talk to her. And then it's like it kind of snaps him out of it like a little bit, kind of. So it was just kind of, I took it more of that way, as much as, because you're right, because like he's not stupid in that sense of like, I'm gonna stay back in time. Like he isn't one of those just random like hero characters that like wants to just do it because it's like, I'm here. But it's more like he did a lot of things in this movie that weren't typically characteristic of him, and I think it was because of
his age.
Well, not so much age, but also like he felt like his world was kind of crashing around him and just didn't know what to do. And it caused him to make stupid decisions and mistakes multiple times.
I agree with you, Brian. It's the first time we've seen this version of Indy. The first four movies, even Crystal Skull, even though he was older, he was still doing Indiana Jones thing. Like he was being a professor, he was still going on missions, he was still searching for things. It was the exact Indy, just at an older age. Like you said, it's the first time we've seen him in such a vulnerable state where he's gone through, not that he hasn't gone through things, but he's gone through things that have massively changed his world. He lost his son. You know, he and Marin had split up before, but now this is like full-blown separation after years of being married and together. He's living alone in an apartment in New York. He's retiring. He won't be teaching anymore. Like everything that he had is gone.
The world's going to the moon and he's not a part of it.
Yeah, like it's just there's so much that had been happening that he was just such a vastly different type of Indy than previous versions of him. And I think that and while I do agree that I think I might have liked it more if like he eventually came to his senses. It did make sense for the Indy that we had seen through the movie that he wasn't capable of making that decision because of everything that he had been through, of what he was going through. And not just that, but like he had just lost his friend Antonio Banderas as well, who had just been killed.
Oh my God.
Like,
I was so upset that there were so many deaths. Like the other professors that got killed.
The civilian deaths were crazy. Like those
that was brutal to see. Yeah. And then I'm sorry, that was a gay couple on that ship. Antonio Banderas' character and his life partner. That's canon in my head. And then they just blew up. I was like, oh,
yeah,
no.
like there was a lot more like obviously there's a lot of deaths in Indy movies, but there was a lot more prominent deaths in this movie than there were previous ones, and a lot more civilian deaths. Like a lot of like people were just dying left and right, and Boyd Holbrook was like the main guy doing it. He was just shooting people all over the place. We have never really seen a character like him who is just as brutal and ruthless. They made really
good Nazis.
Well, he was an American turned Nazi, which was crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little too it's a little too real, hits too close to home when you realize that they were all Americans willing to go with this crazy old man back in time to join the Nazis. You're just like, oh my God.
And they died a horrible, horrible death. Although I think Alex said this in his video, I would have loved to have seen Boyd Holbrook get impaled with one of those spikes.
Yeah.
One of the giant spears. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see his body like in the plane crash. We just saw
we
Voller.
did.
No, we saw Voller like all jacked up. Or did we see Boyd?
I think he was right next to him.
I think they were both there, or maybe we saw one of them, but they looked.
I remember just seeing Voller because of the watch, and he was like totally jacked up, which obviously makes sense. It's a plane crash.
Yeah.
But Boyd Holbrook just deserved to die the worst death possible. Possible.
Dude, when the spears were like coming through and ripping the plane apart and like hitting other random Nazi people, I was like, holy crap.
That was like, awesome. I was like, that's that good craftsmanship and that real good aim. Like, that was so fun to see them actually hitting the plane.
And one of the best parts in that scene is when one goes through the plane and Indy's right there and he starts like examining it. As like a professor, he starts touching it and everything.
Immediately, he's just like in professor mode.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I think they nailed a lot of the action in it. Like, that was one thing that if you're questioning it, like, I don't know what you're questioning, because to me, every time
the tuk-tuk scene was awesome.
The what?
Tuk-tuk scene was so sick.
Tuk-tuk scene. My favorite thing was the train, and that was the opening of it.
We haven't even talked about the opening flashback.
The opening of it was like, oh my God. Like, it just started. And
I will say the tuk-tuk scene is like the 5 or 6 minutes that they showed at Celebration.
Oh, the whole thing?
It wasn't that whole chase scene, but it was like a big chunk of it. So like we saw that in the big, huge stage room at Celebration, and we were all like, oh my God.
It was a really cool scene, and kind of picking off that is because I had a conversation with my buddy about this scene specifically for Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That scene alone showed me what she's capable of as an actress. She can do comedy, drama, and action. The fact that she can do action in moments like that, she is very, very good at what she does. I was questioning her character a little bit, but as the movie went on, I really, really liked her at the end. But the tuk-tuk scene was like, yeah, this is kind of classic Indy. Just getting in random vehicles, chasing through cities, switching back and forth on things. I didn't like the ex-fiance. Didn't like the ex-fiance personally.
Oh, I did like that.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it went on a little too long. I think it maybe could have just been a little bit of a piece, but
I just liked the kind of role reversal of like normally it would be like him being angry, be like, "Why did you leave me?" And instead he was like, "Please, like come back." Like he was upset, and she was the one that was like, "Nah."
Yeah.
The action scenes for me were just top notch, and I've been trying, like, going through everything. If there was a part of action that
the underwater scene was sick.
The underwater was
we had never seen that in any movie before, and the eels and everything. That was cool.
That was clever to use not snakes but sea snakes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's funny when I think Antonio Banderas goes eels and he goes eels. Because he had the same reaction as it would be with snakes.
Yep.
Yeah. They're sea snakes.
That's that was for the audience to be like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
This is the snake moment of the movie.
And I thought it was a really cool I mean, obviously it was hard to see at times because there was so much happening and there were so many of the eels. But we also have to think that he is older. So it would make more sense for Helena to come back to help him and him not be able to get out himself, but I really enjoyed kind of like the treasure hunting vibe of that. That was pretty cool.
It was well done, and I think they were really smart to add the element of anxiety coming from them only having 3 minutes of air.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. I guess it was 3 minutes.
I think it was 3 minutes.
It was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But like having that time crunch on top of them being like all tangled up down there in the shipwreck and stuff, I was like, this was like so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's funny because I remember thinking like 3 minutes. I was like, that's
I know.
nothing. But then, like you said, it creates that like sense of urgency where you're just like, oh crap, hurry
You're
up,
kind of
hurry
like
up.
counting in your head. You're like, they're gonna run out of air.
And you're just like wondering how it's gonna happen. Yeah, everything action related I thought was just top tier. I mean, I would honestly have a hard time finding someone that complained about the action at the very least. The bug cave, I was like, oh, like
Oh my god!
it,
Well, you
Gotta
gotta
have
have the
creepy
creep.
crawlers.
Yeah, I was gonna say you gotta have the creepies.
it
Yeah,
was
you gotta
just
have
like,
them.
it just there were so many that it just like even made you just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, they just like kept falling from
Yeah,
every direction,
and
and
they
I
were
was like,
huge. They were all
Yeah,
of them were so big.
it was great. Ugh, I just got goosebumps.
I will say, I want to talk a little bit of like the treasure hunting vibe of it because a lot of indies, puzzle making and deciphering things, and um, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, if not my favorite, is when they are on the boat deciphering the tablet.
I had a
Mhm.
feeling you were gonna say that part.
That moment, when Helena's doing that, going through the motions of deciphering it, but kind of leading them in a different direction with the flare or the dynamite and everything. I thought it was so well crafted. Again, going back to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she played that part so perfectly.
There was
With
a
so
point
many
where I
different
actually
characters.
thought she was being bad.
Yo, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, like kind of a moment of I'm gonna do this for myself type of thing.
Yeah.
So thank God for the dynamite, right? You usually don't want to say that, but thank God for the dynamite.
And when
But
they
yeah,
finally get away, when she
mhm.
has the moment of like, feel how heavy that thing is. That's when
Yeah,
you're like, damn, she is outsmarting Indy at this
yep.
game right now.
Yep, it's so good. I loved that moment. I loved it so much.
I did too. And then he melts the wax off of it. I was like, ooh,
What a
juicy.
what a smart, like what a cool way to reveal that.
Hmm.
Like that it's inside and that's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean for God knows like how
Mhm.
long, right? Just sitting there waiting for someone to grab. And all you had to do is light it up and that piece is sitting there for you to go, hunt
Yeah,
some
because you're
treasure.
not, especially since it's the bottom of the ocean, like you're not immediately thinking like it just could be slimy, gross. It's like you don't. If it's wax, it's like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna know?
A,
Like,
a similar thing to that, to the wax melting part, the water displacement trick of like
Oh, yeah.
Archimedes
Yeah.
was obsessed with water displacement, and
oh
I
yeah,
kept thinking like, wait, what are they talking about? And then they show us literally like what
Yeah.
they were talking about, and then that hatch opens up. I was like, this is so cool.
So my first thought when watching that scene was, I am so jealous that they got to film inside a room where the floor fell from underneath them. Like I am so jealous that someone got to go through that whole
water slide.
scene. Like it's just again going back to like the whole treasure hunting adventure globetrotting thing. Like that's what Indy's all about. Like the traps and the decision making and the codes and everything and seeing Indy be able to kind of get back into that mode of figuring it out again was super super cool.
So I'm curious what you both thought. The one thing that I've been waiting to say is, what did we think of the de-aging?
Hmm. I thought it was really well done. It's never gonna look right, in my opinion. It's always gonna be kind of bothering me because, like, you can just see it. Like, the emotion in his facial expressions at times just didn't match up with the words that he was
Yeah,
saying and like the action, the
yeah.
scene itself. Sometimes it just didn't match up, and I was like, that's just, I think, inevitable for the whole deep fake face thing.
I
But that's, I mean, I'm a stickler for that. Like that stuff in Star Wars really bugs me, so I knew I wasn't gonna like it, but I do think it looked pretty good.
so it's funny that we're talking about this today because last night I actually rewatched Captain Marvel. The Nick Fury de aging I think is the best we've ever seen to this point.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
remember what that one looks like.
But I will say I agree with you, Molly. What's funny, it's funny to say the de-aging doesn't work when you're just sitting on him.
Mhm.
It works in action and movement and like when you're doing things, but when you have him talk or when you turn because of the depth, you can't capture the depth like you can with a normal human being. Like they're just it's something is off the second you turn the head by just having a camera sit on him, something just changes. But I will say, and I said this outside the theater, I will 100% rather have those scenes than not have them because it was our final goodbye to the classic Indiana Jones. Like one last time of running on the train, slinging the whip, jumping from cart to cart, running with riding the motorcycle. Like we were never going to get that with the old Harrison Ford. So I would 100% rather have that with that scene than not, because if we don't do the de-aging, we would have never got, obviously, or just have a double, which I would have been okay with. But the one moment in that scene that kind of bothered me was when he was running on the train. It was not lined up as good as it should have been. It looked kind of wonky a little bit. So
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kept having moments where I was like, I just don't appreciate this movie telling me to believe that this is Harrison Ford when I know it's not. You know, like that is, I think, what it boils down to. And yeah, it was fun seeing him, I guess, being back in his prime, but just it would be very difficult to just recast. But at least if you just recast someone, you're not sitting there trying to be fooled into thinking that that is the same exact person. You're just like, all right, I can believe that this is him at a younger age because it's a completely different actor.
I would have totally been okay if they did have someone come in and play him in just that role. Like it would have been very odd because we've never seen it before.
Yeah,
but
that would have been difficult.
I would have been okay with it at the end of the day. I think overall, I'm just happy we got the scene. Like I loved the scene back in old Germany, right? Like he was being hung and then he's falling through the roof and like this. It was so cool. Like it was classic Indy for me, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it didn't bother me in the slightest. Like the scene was so fun that I didn't care. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's funny. I saw on Twitter today pictures, I guess, anytime that in that scene that there was a motorcycle, it was a stuntman with the like Harrison Ford Halloween mask on his face. And I was like, oh, it looks so ugly and creepy.
That thing was so creepy.
It's so gross looking. But I mean, for me, like, at the end of the day, it didn't bother me at all because of the fact of like it was needed. I think it's a prop. The only times where I'm like hypercritical and like it like really paying attention to it is when it almost like doesn't feel needed. So like for me, the one that bothers me probably, and usually it doesn't bother me at all. But I think honestly the only time it's ever like really bothered me was like Luke Skywalker's. Like I think that might have been like where it almost didn't feel like it needed to be that and needed to be that character, needed to do it. Whereas in this one's case, like it literally started the story. Like so I didn't mind it.
I think, and I'm terrified we're gonna get to a point where deepfake is like every day.
I hate it.
Yeah,
I think
I'm okay when we do it with this in situations where the actor is still playing the character, but we want to do a flashback, right? And you know it's for a couple moments or a scene like this. What I will not be a fan of is if that person is literally not there, like if they've passed away, or
like they would have done General Ross with the with what's his face instead of Harrison.
Oh yeah, or like a situation where, you know, let's say I'm just throwing out names, not saying this is ever going to happen, but let's say Quentin Tarantino wants to do a film with Leonardo DiCaprio, but he wants Leo to be 25 years old. And the whole movie is just a young Leo instead of a 45 or 55-year-old Leo. Like, that's kind of where I wouldn't agree with it as much. Like, just make movies about the age. You don't deep fake or get a different actor.
Like, sorry, Leo, we can't de-age you to the age that you prefer your girlfriends. We just can't do it.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, it just. I'm really scared for what Hollywood's gonna look like in 10 years because of the deep fake. Yeah, Andy, thank you. The Irishman, like The Irishman is a great example. Deep faking everybody. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, they were all deep faked for most of the movie. And I know that it fit the story at one point, but it just, like, why do it? Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it.
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like, we should really, I hope that there is a turning point where more people are deciding that this is not acceptable. You know, because it makes me start to feel like I'm being taken advantage of as a viewer. Like, they just expect me to be okay with everyone's face looking slightly off and having the audio sounding off and everything's like a little weird. I'm not okay with that. I want like real actors, real faces, real emotions, you know. So.
It also takes away from people being able to act.
Yeah.
Like, who knows if someone that could have been their make or break career role, and you're taking that away because
took our germs. Old South Park reference.
So I know that we haven't gotten into anything, and we're coming up on time here. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up specifically that we haven't really mentioned? Talked about a lot so far, but do you guys? I mean, I don't know if you guys had opinions on Phoebe Waller-Bridge at all. I don't know if we talked about her very much.
So
she was
much.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
she was perfect. We talked about this a little bit in our Q&A on our on Star Wars Explained, but I don't think Helena and the kid, I forget the kid's name,
Teddy.
I don't think the two of them could hold up a sequel or their own show or anything like that. And everyone pitching a fit because they think Helena is the new Indy. I'm like, I loved her character. I might have loved her more than Indy, but we didn't get to know her well enough for her to have a spinoff. I could admit that.
I never felt like they were setting it up in that. Like, people
it never felt like a setup at all.
No, people are like freaking out saying like she's the next Indy, and I'm like, it never once did you feel like she was taking over for him. She just kind of almost was like his equal in a way just at this time. I mean, she was doing things that are not in his code, if you will, like morals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why people, I mean, it seems like there's always a kid. So you got your kid, and then I just never once like crossed my mind, even after the movie. Like, when people said like she's going to be a horrible replacement and blah 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 blah, I was like, wait, did it get announced that she was replacing him? Because I never once felt that way at all.
No,
like
we literally got him hanging up his hat at the end, but then snatching it and being like, "No one gets this hat.
I loved it.
My hat. I will die in this hat."
I loved it so much. I love that he grabbed it. It was perfect.
Yeah, that's him. That's Harrison Ford being like, "This is my character.
Yep.
No one's replacing me."
It reminds me of when the rumors started of Chris Pratt taking over, and then he comes out and was like, no one is playing this character over my dead body. And it's just like, good. There
would have been riots in the street if
it's just
it got announced that someone was being recast as a new Indiana Jones. And
it's just it's kind of like the nature of movie going today too, because every time we get one of these like big budget projects, or just specifically naming them off, the Marvels and the DCs of the world, when we see a superhero, but there's a young kid or there's someone in line, right? Everyone always talks about, there's your next Iron Man, there's your next Batman, there's your next Superman, right? That doesn't always have to be the case. Like that doesn't always need to happen, especially with Indiana Jones. There's one Indiana Jones. It will always be Harrison Ford. I don't know what the future looks like, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, if they want to continue the franchise. I would be 1,000% okay if there was never another Indiana Jones movie in the history of time. I think that these 5 movies are perfect the way they are, and I think that the franchise can live on with just these 5 movies.
That's a good point about people just expecting recasts to eventually happen because of what Marvel and DC has done. We've gotten several, different Spider-Man, and we've gotten several different so-and-so for superhero movies. And like superhero movies have been just the big blockbuster hits. And so that's why it keeps happening. But I feel like they're kind of getting a little bit less blockbustery lately. And so it does make sense that people would just assume like, well, it's not over. They're going to recast him because they're so used to seeing it happen in other franchises. But Indy is like so different from a superhero franchise. Like, I agree. I think this is it.
It's just
for now.
There's 5 of them. It's not like it was like a one and done or even 2. There's 5 of them.
And so Mangold did talk about that there were talks about a Abner Ravenwood project.
Yeah.
So we don't know like how far along they actually got in those talks, but like I'd
be down to see that.
I keep saying
I would be down for like spin-off exploring other characters like in that realm. That I think would be cool because then you kind of just get to just explore whatever and make it your own while still like being under that banner, if you will. Like, because I mean, to me, I think it would be kind of fun to find out that like after meeting Indy Short Round, like fell in love and did his own like adventuring and maybe even had a kid that is like doing the same thing with it. Like, why not? I mean, it doesn't affect Indiana Jones in any way. Like,
it would have to be very clearly a spinoff and in the spirit of Indiana Jones and not like a continuation or anything like that.
Like you could, to me, it makes sense. Like you could easily just pick up, I don't know, Short Round's.
You keep going back to Short Round
because he's the easiest one that I can think of. Like of all the characters, like who are ones that you think could handle and hold a spinoff? Plus, the man just came off winning Best Actor, so it's like.
I'm not saying that that's not the case at all. I don't know if I saw just personal. I don't know if I saw Short Round becoming an archaeologist who hunts for treasure across the world. I like, and Brian, I don't know if you recognize the name, but Abner Ravenwood is Marion's father, who was essentially like kind of a, person who helped Indy become who Indy was. And he was on adventures with Indy and whatnot. And we can pick up with Abner well before Indy was even in the picture, which you wouldn't have to worry about ever casting for Indy or anything like that. So
my thing is,
I like that idea a lot. Plus it puts it way back in time, which is cool.
Yeah. For me, I almost kind of feel like if you're going to do a spinoff, like I would rather them go more forward in time than backwards.
I'd go backwards personally.
It's harder to go forward because we're already in the time of space travel now. And so we can't go too much further forward or it's not going to feel as pulpy and as
that's fair
classic Indiana adventure if we keep going forward in time.
That's true.
Indy always just I think the Dial of Destiny is the farthest that we can go with this franchise. Personally, Indy lives in the early to mid 1940s for the character of Indiana Jones. Now, if we were to pick up with a character like Abner Ravenwood, that would be the late 1800s, early 1900s, somewhere in there, which would be a really cool time period to pick up with. Everything going on in the U.S. and everything.
Yeah. I mean,
We were just watching 310 to Yuma earlier today, and so like
Oh.
that's very much where my mind is at. And I was like, that would be a
That'd be
good
super cool.
time period for something like that.
But at the end of the day, I think we all agree that we can end at 5 and we're good forever.
I mean, if they chose to never do anything ever again, I think I know I'd be fine with it.
Yep,
just because
me too.
I mean, over half of the 5 are like regarded as some of the best movies. So it's like, why try to recreate the wheel when the wheel is working just fine?
Yeah.
So
I think it's one of those things where like as long as certain people are in charge at Lucasfilm, they're not gonna touch it.
Yeah. It'll have to be a changing of the old guard.
Yeah, what happens in 30 years, right? Like 20
Yeah.
years, whatever
With,
the case may be.
When like completely different people are in charge of everything, we might be seeing something.
And Harrison Ford is actually dead. Like what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once basically any like person that's holding the like classic nostalgia is gone, and it's just like generation underneath us, like then it might be fair game.
I hope I'm dead by the point that happens. I don't want to see it.
Or at least you stop caring about movies and stuff.
Yeah. That's what terrifies me. Like, just kind of going off on a little tangent real quick. I've thought about this, and it's kind of a weird thought, but I'm kind of nervous to introduce my son in a number of years to movies because of what the future of Hollywood could look like. Like, if I introduce him to, like, let's say Indiana Jones, and he's just obsessed with it like I am, but then 30 years down the line, there's this absolute shit movie that comes out, and it's not Harrison Ford, and all this stuff happens.
You want to know what I just thought of? Your kid could technically be more preferential to the TV series of Harry Potter versus the old movies.
Yeah, I'm not going to like that. Which, I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, think about it. By the time, I mean, let's just say they start watching it at 8 years old. That's a lot of time from the old movies in 8 years from now. Like, there could probably already be like...
Brian, 8 years is 2031.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
let's not think about that. Let's not.
2 of us will be in our 40s.
If that happens and your son gets mad about it, he can get on his podcast and talk about it, so the whole world can know.
he's going to continue on the A Certain Point of View name at one point.
We're going to have.
It's going to live on, and he's still going to. It's still going to be the Indiana Jones character that's in front of the logo and everything. So
except their podcasting is going to be with the Apple
Hollow News,
things where they're like actual people walking around telling it.
Let's hope not. All right, so we've talked about, I think, as much as we could possibly talk about. Is there any final thoughts that you guys want to throw out there before we wrap this up? We did get one more super chat that I'll bring up here in just a second. But any final thoughts that you guys would like to talk about for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Not really in depth, but I just thought Mads Mikkelsen was a fantastic bad guy.
He was perfect.
He was so good.
Like,
I love him just period.
Oh, 100%. Like, when you think of like, who can I cast to play a really good Nazi? Like, him and Christoph Waltz are pretty much like the 2 you immediately go
I'm gonna be honest. I think he's my second favorite behind Belloc. I think he's up there.
Yeah. I mean,
like I love Elsa in the villains from, or I get the villains, whatever, from Last Crusade, but that's not what I remember from that movie. Like currently when I think of Dial of Destiny, Voller had a very large part, very similar to how Belloc did. It's very similar of how they were kind of placed in front of us. And you guys are right. Like, he's the perfect German. Like, it's just, the poor guy's been just typecast as villain, Bond villain, Marvel villain, Indy villain. But I love it so much, and I hope we don't.
Here's my thing, though. Here's my thing, because it's kind of exactly what D-Train just said. If you're good at it, and you play the part to the T, and he seems to not have a problem with it, who cares?
Well, so I saw an interview. Someone asked him about this, and it was James Mangold was next to him, and one, he said he enjoyed it, but James Mangold stepped in and said, "When you think of villains, aren't they the most interesting most of the time?
Yes, they're the best part.
They have the
Mhm.
most layers when it comes down to it most of the time because everything is kind of going through them because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So for Mads to step into those roles and the amount of villain, I mean, played Hannibal too on TV, like." I'm all for it. If that's what he wants to do, I'm down.
Yeah. You can't have a hero without a villain.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you need a
Sorry,
really
I
solid
would
villain.
much rather him be a typecast villain and something like that than like, oh, let's go get who's popular? Oh, Chris Pratt to play
Yeah,
that.
well, I mean,
It's
let's
like,
be
no
honest.
thanks.
And
He's in everything else. I don't need
it's
it.
nothing against Mads, but I could never see him as a leading hero.
No, the highest hero I can see him is like in Rogue One.
Yeah.
See, Kylo even agrees with me.
No, that was Finn. That was not
I
Kylo.
gotta
that
look
was-
up the movie that he's in. That we watched Another Round. Did you guys see that movie?
Mm-mm.
It's a really interesting movie, and it's especially interesting because he's playing such a different character than he normally is, and it's just like a fun concept too. But he's
Also,
like
I'm
a
sorry.
teacher, I think, in that.
Also, I mean, I'm sorry to say it. He just looks like a villain. He's got such like strong facial features that are just villainous.
I think he's
And it
kind of
just
hot.
works. Yeah, it's like in that like bad way, right? Where it's just
It's in
like,
that way where you're like, should I think he's hot?
yeah,
I don't
exactly. I thought he was great. I thought it was perfect casting, makes sense. I mean, who would you rather have do it? Johnny Depp?
No, he was
good.
perfect. He was
Yeah.
perfect. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
All right, one final super chat before we wrap this up, coming from Tim Sim. Thank you so much, Tim. Interesting thing on the ending. I agreed with the ending being Indy returning back to his time and reuniting with Marion. I thought it went too abrupt. What do you mean by that specifically? Like it just happened too quickly? Because
I
if
think
that's what you mean, go ahead, Molly.
So, sorry, that was like the only way that they could have ended that movie.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not like Marion would be like going around on adventures. At least
All she
I
wanted was
thought it went well.
all she wanted was for him to be in that moment with her, be with her.
Yeah.
And that's when like she's like, "Are you really back?" She's like, "Are you gonna stop being a grump?"
Mhm.
We just quickly the callback to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Where does it hurt? Oh, so cute.
That
Just
definitely made me cry. It was
Yes,
like kind of
literally-
cheesy, but
Jake literally out loud for both. What did she say? Here, and then where was the other one?
She did the shoulder. She did the shoulder next.
Shoulders?
Oh yeah, maybe like the chest there. Yeah.
Both times Jake goes out loud. Ah, ah, like just.
Indy's my guy, man. Like when I see that stuff, it just gets me all choked up.
There
like,
were
seeing
multiple
that.
times where he like yelled out loud in a quiet. Like
I'm
scene.
telling you, I enjoyed the living hell out of myself. I really did. Like it, and obviously it had so much expectations, not just from indie fans in general, but movie people in general. Like it's Harrison Ford's final time as the character. From what we know, it's the finale of the franchise for the time being. And so there's a lot revolving around it. And the relief of watching it and just getting the sense that this is exactly what I wanted. Like this is what I needed, what I wanted. I'm so happy that it checkmarked the globetrotting adventure. It checkmarked the supporting characters. Like it checkmarked so much stuff revolving around the indie franchise. Those were all gasps of relief, Brian. That's what those were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would say gasps of relief.
That's what I'm going to say.
I'm trying to think of there was one specific part where you literally yelled, like said something out loud, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" I don't know if I should sit next to.
You were
him.
like, I can't go anywhere with him.
He literally, I think it was someone showing up or something, and you just like,
was it Sala?
No, because I know
That was really cute.
I don't know.
I don't know what you were talking about, Brian. I'm not
there
sure.
was a part I don't remember what it was, but it was just something like, I don't know, I'm just going to use Saw as an example. Where you were just like, Saw my boy! Like, or something like that.
I don't think I said that, but that's okay.
Yes, you did. Because I immediately remember going, I might need to get up and move seats. Like,
Why? I'm enjoying watching a movie. What's the big deal? What's the big
like,
deal?
In a joking manner, I was just like it's fun to see you like get excited, but I was just like, oh.
Who cares? Who cares?
Fun. But
that's why we go to the movies. You know what?
Yeah.
That's why we go to the movies.
And
if it was some freaking Marvel DC character doing something stupid, people wouldn't bat an eye at it. But because it's Indiana Jones, it's a big deal. Screw those people.
It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it as much as I thought I would enjoy it, which I'm glad, because I was starting to think that I was putting expectations too high on it.
Me too.
So yeah,
cool.
I'm happy with how it played out. It's Barbie's time now.
Oh dear God, yes!
It's Barbie time now. I kept telling Alex
first
that
it's
today.
Mission Impossible, and then it's Barbie, but that's okay.
It's Barbie Oppenheimer time.
It's Barbenheimer. That's what they're saying.
Barbenheimer. Which they played the trailer for that. I think that was the first time I had seen the trailer.
Jake ran.
No, not for Oppenheimer, for Dune.
No, I know. I was gonna say for Dune.
Oh yeah, they didn't play Dune for us, but I was like, I mean, yeah, I'll probably see Oppenheimer, but
not until Barbie.
Barbie is like, it looks so much more fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm sure we'll do a big fat review on this channel for Barbie. Maybe a Barbenheimer episode. We'll see. We'll see. But
Barbie will be on this channel. Apocalypse can have Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we'll see. But that's gonna wrap up everything Indiana Jones. We covered as much as we possibly could. We were expecting the show to go a little lighter tonight, but I think we just needed the time to talk everything we possibly could on the Dial of Destiny. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was a great conversation. Thank you to everyone who's in the chat the whole time commenting along. If you're watching this on the playback and you just watched Indy or you didn't get to throw your thoughts out there, let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys and what you thought about Indy 5 and you know your overall thoughts on the ending of the franchise. As we mentioned up top, make sure you guys are checking out everything POV, Patreon, the membership here on YouTube. There's all kinds of cool things that are in the description of the video. The links are all down there. We're doing all kinds of fun things on a monthly basis. June was awesome. We did a lot of fun things in June regarding trivia and watch along. And if you did not watch last weekend's happy hour, go watch last weekend's happy hour. It was a blast. Everyone who donated.
We need your support because YouTube is cutting off our money because we're so raunchy.
Yeah.
And now they're targeting the gays. That's what it is.
So go check that out. It is available. It'll be available on audio a little bit later this week if you are more into podcast form. So for Molly, for Brian, for Jill, who is home resting her voice, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.